um, and we're going to be talking about 1.2 and describing distributions. This is so important when you're talking about the AP test for you those that are taking the AP on how to describe this. So I'm just going to go quickly through this and then go through an example. So first off, when you talk about describing distributions, you first need to know about the shape, okay, the shape of the distribution. And there are several different shapes. The primarily two main shapes that you might see are what is known as unimodal. That means there is one hump in the distribution. Now this is symmetric, but it doesn't have to be symmetric. These different distributions are also unimodal, where it appears they have one large hump in each. Another distribution is what's known as bimodal. And bimodal means meaning two. All right, so there are two humps in your distribution. All right, two peaks in one valley, and you can have trimodal, quimodal, whatever I say, but usually you see unimodal and bimodal for the different distributions that way. Now, another important thing that we need to take a look at is also the symmetry or lack thereof. For example, when there is symmetry like this unimodal distribution, also this is bimodal distribution, these are both symmetrical, all right, symmetrical. So we'd say the distributions of the data is symmetrical. The other thing that we see is that when we see there's a slant, so there's a unimodal thing, but a unimodal distribution, but then it starts to leak off to a side, and you see that that is a tail. It starts having a tail. I call it the tail of the distribution. And if the tail is to the right, we would say that's skewed. We would say this be skewed to the right. All right, skewed to the right. That means we have very large values, okay, very large numeric values to the right. This one is also skewed, and if you see this right here, it appears we have a tail to the left, So we would say this would be skewed to the left of the distribution, and that's what we have there, okay? Now, we also want to describe distributions using different words. And now this is going to be the key thing, is that when you describe a distribution, we always remember this. This is always, by many EP teachers, is S.O.C.S. Yes, S.O.C.S, which stands for shape, outliers, center, and spread. So S.O.C.S. Now, the key thing whenever you're doing any description of a distribution is you need to remember context. Now, context, as I tell my students, and I'm going to tell you, is it means something. All right, the numbers mean something. You have to tell me what it means. So do not be general. Use the context in the problem to describe what is happening. Okay, we also like to use cushy words. All right, cushy words. Adverbs, always like slightly, or roughly, moderately. Okay, and so like that. Okay, so we're going to say it's roughly symmetrical or roughly skewed to the left, slightly skewed to the left, moderately skewed to the left, and so on and so forth. Okay, and now when you have that, so when we talk about shape, the shape is really going to be either symmetric, skewed to the right, skewed to the left, or it's going to be the modals. When we're talking about outliers, stand for values that are extremely far from the other points. Okay, we're going to talk about how to get more precise with that in future lessons. The center, when you're talking about skew, all right, skew, we generally talk about the median, okay, and we give a general indication of where the median is located. A mean is the average of all the quantitative data numbers in the set. And then we talk about variability, which is also known as spread. I use spread here, not variability, but how spread out is the data. That might be a range, okay? That might be a range. And now to find the range, we take the max minus the min. That could be an IQR. We can talk about that when we get to box and whisker plots. All right, quartile range. That may be a standard deviation, okay? But that is what we're looking for when we talk about variability or spread. How spread out is the data, okay? We're referring to that. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go in the next video and we're going to talk about how to put all this together and describing different distributions of data. All right, so we'll see you in a bit.